I want to start today with a scenario that is, well, it's practically a universal paradox. And I'm definitely looking in the mirror here, too.
Oh, I think we all are when it comes to this one.
Right. So you're intelligent, you're capable, you're a listener who pays attention to this stuff, so you have access to pretty much every piece of health data ever recorded.
You know the terrain, you have the roadmap.
Exactly.
Hmm.
You know logically that you should go to bed at 10:30. You know you should eat a balanced lunch. You know you should put the phone away an hour before sleep.
You have the GPS and the guide.
I have all of it. And yet there I am staying up until 2 in the morning doom scrolling through news that just makes me angry. Or I'm skipping lunch for a fourth cup of coffee and running entirely on anxiety and sugar.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
So the question that really plagues us is why? Why do we do this? Is it a lack of willpower? A secret death wish?
Hmm.
Or, and this is the one that keeps people up at night, is it a fundamental character flaw?
That is usually exactly where the internal monologue goes.
Okay.
We default to this idea that we're just weak or undisciplined. We treat it like a moral failing.
Totally.
But the research we're unpacking today offers a completely different and honestly a much more forgiving explanation.
It really does. So today we are doing a deep dive into a fascinating source titled Why We Ignore What's Best for Our Health. And our mission here is really specific.
We want to completely flip the script on how we view these quote-unquote bad habits.
Yes, we're moving away from those tired narratives of control, of discipline, and of punishment. Instead, we're going to look at a biological and philosophical concept called fragmentation.
Which is a key distinction, because the source material basically argues that modern life is an accumulation of mechanisms designed to override our intuition, and it provides a practical roadmap back to what it calls coherence.
I love that word, coherence. It sounds so much better than discipline.
It feels a lot lighter.
So let's get right into the core philosophy here. The source opens with a concept that feels a little abstract at first. It says humanity is layered. What does that actually mean in a practical sense for someone listening right now?
It's essentially a way of describing the sheer complexity of the human operating system. It acknowledges that we are capable of very high states of awareness, things like creativity, love, strategic thinking, deep empathy.
Good stuff.
Right. But we are also capable of these very dense, distracted, reactive states where we just want to numb out. And the critical argument the source makes is that neither state makes you evil.
Which is a massive relief. Because usually when I'm in that dense state, like when I'm eating a whole bag of chips on the couch, I just feel like a bad person.
Exactly. The text argues that ignoring what's best for your health isn't proof that you're primitive or broken or morally bankrupt. It's simply proof that you are fragmented.
Fragmented. Okay,
Right.
let's drill down on that. Because usually when I'm making those bad choices, I don't feel fragmented. I just feel lazy. What's the structural difference there?
Well, laziness implies a deliberate refusal to act. You're choosing not to do something. Fragmentation implies a disconnection between parts of the system.
Like a miscommunication.
Exactly. Think of a massive corporation where the marketing department isn't talking to engineering and HR somehow lost the phone number for finance.
Chaos.
Complete chaos. But the company isn't evil and the employees aren't stupid. The system is just uncoordinated. The source argues that highest integration, which is the opposite of fragmentation, is when the body and mind move toward coherence naturally.
And it claims this isn't something you have to force. Like, I don't have to force the departments to talk.
Correct. When you're integrated, health isn't a chore. It's a byproduct of the system working correctly.
So what does that actually look like?
The markers of this state are things like clean nourishment, a steady rhythm, a regulated nervous system, and that creates a state of emotional honesty and balanced effort.
Balanced effort. That really stands out to me because usually health feels like maximum effort. It feels like this constant battle against my own desires.
And that battle is the ultimate sign of fragmentation. If you're fighting yourself, you are by definition divided. The argument here is that when we drift away from that integrated state, when we stop sleeping or start eating junk, it's not because we're quote-unquote low people. It's because we have severed the connection to our internal signals.
Which brings us perfectly to those signals. This was the section of the research that really made me pause. Because we tend to view physical symptoms, fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, inflammation, as the enemy.
Oh, absolutely. We treat them as glitches, obstacles we just need to obliterate so we can get back to being productive.
Right. It's like, I have a headache, so let me take a pill, tell my body to shut up, and keep working.
We treat them as punishments. Like, why is my body betraying me right now? I have so much to do.
But the source completely rebrands these symptoms. It actually calls them misalignment indicators.
This is a crucial shift in perspective, a really technical shift. If you view anxiety or fatigue as a misalignment indicator, you start trying to suppress it. You start trying to decode it.
Because the body is always communicating.
Always. Fatigue isn't some random act of cruelty by your biology. It's a feedback loop.
It's just data. It's literally the dashboard of your car.
Yes, perfect analogy. If the check engine light comes on, you don't smash the light bulb with a hammer so you can just keep driving. You actually check the engine.
But with our bodies, we smash the light bulb every single day. We medicate the symptom, we blast through the fatigue with caffeine, and we completely ignore the signal that our integration has been broken.
We're all guilty of smashing the light bulb.
But here is the pushback I imagine a lot of people listening might have. If the body is talking, and apparently, based on how tired most people are, it's shouting, why are we so deaf to it? I mean, I consider myself a reasonably observant person, but I miss these signals constantly until I completely crash. Why is the connection so poor?
And that is a very important point the source addresses. It's not your fault. This is where we have to look at the environment we're operating in every day.
The modern world.
Right. The source lays out 4 specific overrides of modern life. These are external mechanisms that actively interfere with our ability to hear our own reception.
Let's go through these one by one, because I really think they explain a lot of the modern condition. The first override is overstimulation, overriding intuition.
Just think about the sheer data transfer rate your brain processes in a single day. You've got the news, social media, emails, advertisements, background noise, artificial lighting, traffic.
It's exhausting just listing it.
It is. Your nervous system is processing terabytes of sensory input. When the system is flooded with that much external noise, the quiet, subtle voice of intuition, the one that says, I'm full, or I'm tired, or I feel uneasy, literally cannot be heard.
The signal-to-noise ratio is completely off. It's not that the intuition isn't speaking. It's that it's whispering in a hurricane.
Precisely. The noise floor is just way too high. It's like trying to hear a flute solo while you're standing next to a jet engine.
That tracks. Okay, the second override is external pressure overriding internal rhythm.
This is essentially the tyranny of the industrial clock versus the biological clock.
Oh, I feel this one deeply.
We all do. Your body has a circadian rhythm. It's a biological oscillation. It naturally knows when to wake up, when to digest, when to rest. But modern life imposes this rigid artificial grid right on top of that.
Right. You wake up when the alarm screams at you, not when you're rested.
You eat when your lunch break is scheduled at noon, not when you're actually hungry. You work until the project deadline is met, not until your energy wanes.
And eventually we stop even checking if we're hungry. We just eat because the clock says 12 p.m. We've completely outsourced our bodily functions to a machine.
We become robots executing a schedule, completely dissociated from our biological reality, and then we wonder why we have digestion issues or chronic insomnia.
It makes so much sense. Now, the third override is one I think we are all addicted to, even if we don't want to admit it. Artificial reward systems overriding organic satisfaction.
This is a massive one in the age of engineered dopamine. Organic satisfaction is subtle. It's the feeling of a really good meal, a nice walk, a deep conversation with a friend.
Watching a sunset.
Exactly. It's a slow burn. It's gentle. But artificial rewards are spikes. Refined sugar, getting likes on a photo, video games, gambling, constant breaking news.
It's supernormal stimuli.
Precisely. These artificial systems are hyperpotent. They hijack the brain's reward centers, and they make organic satisfaction feel boring or just totally invisible by comparison.
Because why would your brain want the subtle satisfaction of eating a salad when it can have the explosive instant reward of a donut?
Or why walk in nature for an hour when you can scroll through 100 entertaining videos in 3 minutes?
It makes healthy things feel incredibly dull.
It really does. And the last override creates this cycle of numbness. It's emotional avoidance overriding bodily awareness.
This one feels the deepest.
It is. We often use our body to hide from our feelings. The body is where emotions are felt physically. The tight chest of anxiety, the heavy gut of sadness, the heat of anger.
And if we don't want to feel those things,
we subconsciously sever the connection to our bodily awareness. We numb out. Because if we were fully aware of our bodies, we'd have to feel all the difficult emotions stored there.
So we basically dissociate from the physical body just to survive the emotion.
Yes. The source sums this up by saying modern life is characterized by constant noise, constant urgency, constant comparison, and constant input.
It's basically a recipe for deafness.
It's a construction zone with jackhammers going 24/7. And we're standing right in the middle of it wondering why we can't hear our own heartbeat. It's completely absurd when you step back and think about it.
So let's look at the result of all this. We're fragmented, we're misaligned, and we are deaf to the signals because of the noise. Here is where the source takes a turn that I found really compassionate. It takes the things we usually classify as bad habits, the things we carry so much shame about, and reframes them completely.
Yes, this is the regulation tool concept.
We're talking about the big ones here. Overeating, doom scrolling, substance use, overworking. Usually, society and our own harsh inner critic says you're doing that because you have no self-control. You're just weak.
Right. But the source argues the issue is not intelligence, and it is not a lack of discipline. It is disconnection.
Okay, unpack that for us.
When you are disconnected from your body's natural regulation, those bad habits become regulation tools. You are using them to manually regulate a nervous system that has forgotten how to regulate itself.
That is such a powerful reframe. It takes the shame right out of the equation. Can we break down some specific examples? Because doom scrolling, for instance, feels like a massive waste of time to me, not a tool. How is staring at a screen a tool?
Look at what it achieves physiologically. You aren't scrolling because you're lazy. You are actively seeking distraction from a reality or an emotion that feels overwhelming. It's a numbing agent.
It narrows your focus to a tiny rectangle of light.
Exactly. It shuts out the rest of the chaotic world. That is a form of safety seeking. It's a way to turn the world off when it's too loud.
Okay, that makes total sense. What about overeating? Because that one really feels like a pure lack of willpower.
In this framework, you aren't overeating because you're a glutton. You are seeking comfort to regulate a nervous system that feels unsafe or unsettled.
Because eating changes your biology.
Yes, it engages the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode. You are literally using heavy food to force your body to calm down and sedate itself.
Wow. You're using food as a tranquilizer.
Exactly. And substances. Alcohol, weed.
I assume those are sought for relief.
Yes. Relief from physical pain, from mental noise, from external pressure. It's a chemical attempt to turn down the volume of all those overrides we just talked about.
And here's the one that hits home for a lot of high achievers who think they don't have any vices. Overworking.
Ah, the most socially acceptable addiction we have. Overworking is sought for worth.
If I don't feel inherent value because I'm disconnected from myself, I'll try to generate value through output.
Precisely. All of these behaviors, eating, scrolling, drinking, working, they are all misguided attempts to self-regulate a nervous system that has lost its natural rhythm.
It changes everything when you look at it that way. You stop hating yourself for the behavior and you start asking, what am I trying to regulate right now?
Exactly. It moves you away from harsh judgment and toward curiosity. Asking, why do I feel the need to numb out right now is an infinitely more productive question than asking, why am I such a failure?
So if discipline isn't the answer, because clearly you can't just white-knuckle your way out of a dysregulated nervous system, what is the answer? How do we actually fix the fragmentation and get back to that coherence?
The source calls for a fundamental return to internal referencing.
Internal referencing. That sounds simple, but I feel like it's actually quite difficult for modern people. We are so heavily conditioned for external referencing.
Oh, we are trained in it from kindergarten. The source actually contrasts the old way versus the new way. The old way, how pretty much all of us were raised, is to ask, what is allowed?
We constantly look for external rules.
Right. Is this food allowed on my diet? Is it okay to sleep in on a Saturday? Is this behavior socially acceptable? What does that fitness influencer say I should do? We are constantly looking for a permission slip from an authority figure or some strict dogma.
It's like checking the owner's manual instead of just checking the actual engine.
Exactly. The new way is asking, what does my body actually need? That is internal referencing. It's checking your own dashboard.
But here's the problem I see with that. If I ask my dysregulated body what it wants right now, it might genuinely say, I need a donut and 3 hours of TikTok. How do we distinguish between a craving driven by those overrides and an actual genuine biological need?
That is the million-dollar question right there. And the source argues that you cannot trust the signal until you lower the noise. You have to engage in some practical tactical changes first to recalibrate your sensors.
Okay, so what are the tactics? Give us the how-to for recalibrating.
It starts with one word: simplify. You have to reduce the unnecessary inputs. You cannot hear the pure signal if the noise floor remains high. So you have to consciously turn down the volume, literally and metaphorically.
Less social media, less constant audio playing in the background, simpler food.
Yes. You have to create actual space for the internal signal to emerge.
And it also mentions prioritizing stability.
This is an interesting one because in our culture, we often prioritize excitement or hyperproductivity. But to heal fragmentation, you need stability.
You have to choose stability over stimulation.
Exactly. Fewer extremes, fewer massive spikes in your day, more rhythm. It's about a kind of boring, predictable consistency that allows the nervous system to finally settle down, going to sleep at the exact same time, eating your meals at the same time.
Boring is good.
Boring is incredibly healing for a fragmented system. And the ultimate goal of all this simplicity and stability is to rebuild sensitivity.
So when you lower the noise and prioritize stability, you become sensitive again.
Yes. You start to actually feel the subtle things that were drowned out by the jackhammers. You start to be able to tell the difference between, I want a donut because my boss yelled at me and I'm stressed, which is an override, and I actually need physical nourishment.
The source actually lists specifically what returns when we do this work. It says we begin to feel true hunger.
As opposed to emotional hunger or just boredom hunger, you feel that actual physical rumble in the stomach, not just a psychological craving in the mouth.
We feel true fatigue.
Which is very different from just being mentally drained or burnt out from staring at a screen. It's that deep, heavy physical need for sleep where you actually feel tired. Not that awful tired but wired feeling.
And it says we feel true emotion and true desire.
This is the real payoff of the whole philosophy. Health isn't about control, it is about coherence.
And the source emphasizes that you do not need to believe humanity is broken or accept this scarcity mythology where everything good is forbidden to fix this.
No, you just need to admit you are misaligned. It's a mechanical issue with your system, not a moral failing of your soul.
I do want to clarify the end goal here, though.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about clean nourishment and reducing inputs, it's really easy to think the goal is to become this perfect, ascetic monk living on a mountaintop who never eats a cookie and never watches a movie. Is that what the source is pushing for?
Not at all, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because that would just be another form of external rule following. That's the old, I must be pure to be good mentality.
Right.
The source is very clear on this. The goal is not purity. The goal is congruence.
Define congruence for us in this specific context.
Congruence simply means less fragmentation, more awareness. Less artificial override, more natural rhythm. It's when your thoughts, your physical body, your environment, and your daily behavior are all generally moving in the same direction.
So it's definitely not about perfection.
No. It's about those choices being conscious and aligned with your needs, rather than being compulsive reactions to stress. When you have congruence, health actually becomes less forced.
It stops being a battle against yourself.
Exactly. You aren't fighting your own biology anymore. You are collaborating with it.
Health becomes less forced. That really sounds like the dream scenario. It's sustainable because it doesn't require an endless supply of willpower.
It is entirely sustainable. The text says you do not need to degrade the past or worship it. You need to listen to your own system.
It's a message of empowerment.
It really is. It's about reclaiming the authority over your own lived experience. It's trusting that if you just clear the noise out, your body actually wants to be healthy.
This has been such a refreshing take on a topic that is usually so heavy. It feels like we've taken a massive backpack of guilt right off our shoulders today. Let's do a quick recap of the journey we've just been on.
Sure. We started by looking at why we ignore our health and realized it's not because we're stupid or lazy. It's because we're fragmented.
We moved from feeling guilty about our physical symptoms, like the fatigue and the anxiety, to seeing them as misalignment indicators. The dashboard lights are just flashing, giving us data.
Then we untacked the 4 overrides. The noise, the clock pressure, the artificial rewards, the emotional avoidance, the things that keep us deaf to those dashboard indicators.
And we realize that our bad habits are actually just desperate, misguided attempts to regulate a nervous system that's spinning out of control.
And finally, we discussed the core solution. Switching from asking what is allowed to asking what do I need, moving from forced control to natural coherence, from strict discipline to biological rhythm.
The source wraps it up with a line that captures this whole philosophy perfectly. It says, health ignored is usually intuition ignored. Health restored is usually coherence restored.
It's a beautiful summary. It just strips away all the shame we've built up around wellness.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, right now? How do we leave you with something actionable that isn't just go meditate on a mountain for a year?
I want to leave everyone with a provocative thought. Something to really test out over the next few days in your normal life. We talked about how our default setting is to ask, What is allowed? We're always looking for that external permission slip.
Right. Is this meal keto? Is this activity productive enough? What will people think if I cancel these plans?
The challenge for you is to catch yourself in that exact moment. The next time you are deciding what to eat or when to go to sleep or whether to say yes to an invitation, catch yourself looking for the rule.
Just stop.
Stop right there. And instead ask yourself this one specific question. If I assume my body isn't trying to trick me, what is it actually asking for right now?
If I assume my body isn't trying to trick me, that requires a lot of trust.
It does, because we have been taught our whole lives to treat the body as an adversary, something wild that needs to be conquered or tricked into submission. Trusting it is a truly radical act, but that trust is exactly where the coherence begins.
I love that. A radical act of trust in your own internal system. Thank you for walking us through this deep dive today. It was incredibly insightful.
It was a pleasure. Here's to finding our rhythm.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Catch you next time.